Just one season without any massive headlines. Please, I would take that as a Chelsea fan. Every season so far for the past couple of years, something major has happened. I just want to finish like third and not have a manager sacked. But that is what has happened for Chelsea this week. If you guys haven't been living under a rock, you would have seen the news that Graham Potter has been sacked by Chelsea as Chelsea manager on Sunday last night. That's why we're doing a special We Need to Talk today, where we're going to be looking through the potential Chelsea managers to take his place. Now, we'll probably talk a lot more about Graham Potter, his time at Chelsea, and the decisions made overall over the next couple of days during the week. Once we hear a little bit more information come out as well in the tabloid press. But for now, Graham Potter leaving. My honest reaction, yeah, probably makes sense. Obviously, Graham Potter is a good coach, a fantastic coach, but possibly this is a step too far for him right now. He'll learn so much from this. I'm sure this will not be the last time we see Graham Potter at a big club. I do slightly feel sorry for him as well, because it kind of felt like from day one he was already maybe 2 steps behind with the sacking of Thomas Tuchel. The fans obviously loved him after everything he'd done, and it just felt like it may have never really quite worked out. And it's a shame. It really is a shame, because I do think he has the potential to be a fantastic coach. And I'm sure, as I said, we'll see him again. Maybe not too soon, but in the summer, who knows where he'll go. Now, anyway, we will talk more about Graham Potter and his future and how it's worked out for the past 7 months, because that's only how long it's been at Chelsea later on this week. We'll go into it. I'm sure we'll do a Sunday Vibes, so on and so forth. But let's, right now, talk about the potential managers who could be taking over. Okay, so let's get into it then. We've got our famous Football Daily tier list in front of us. 5 different rankings. Higher now being the top one. Good, okay, poor, and do not even call them. Those are the selections. We've got a bunch of managers to talk through, and let's kick things off with Thomas Frank. Now, Thomas Frank is somebody right here on Football Daily I think we are all big fans of. However, if we're being completely honest, he's kind of in the situation right now that Graham Potter was in last season. He's got his side, Brentford, flying. And Potter, especially actually when he got taken over as Chelsea manager, had Brighton flying, actually scoring goals. Obviously, De Zerbi's come in, done a great job to keep that going. But this is about Thomas Frank. And the job Thomas Frank is doing is really, really impressive. He's had the 4th most points, Brentford, since after the World Cup, so since the return of the Premier League. He's taken the 4th most points in the league. That's better than everybody but Arsenal, City and Manchester United. That is ridiculous, especially when you consider the budget that someone like Thomas Frank has been using. He's now actually the 3rd longest serving Premier League manager as well in the division, behind Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola, which is crazy. It's actually 6th longest in all 4 divisions of England. And obviously Brentford are 7th in the league. Now, whatever, he's a good manager, we know that. My slight worry, and I had this same worry when Potter was also there, is it is much easier. And look, it's still a very tough job to do, but you are praised, I think, a lot more for making a player who costs 3 million look like a 30 million pound player, right? These players who have come up from the Championship, making them look like a good Premier League level. Not that it's easy to do, but what I mean is that you can get praised for, whereas it's so tough. It's so tough to make, say, a 63 million pound left back look like the best left back in the world, or to spend 100 million pounds on a player and make them look like they are worth that 100 million pounds. Because realistically, those guys that are bought for that amount of money never are quite that good enough for that to be worth it. Now, look, Thomas Frank is a good manager. I'm putting him in good straight away. I'm not going to say higher now, just because I think it could be a little bit Potter-esque with what we've seen. However, I do think he'd be able to handle the media better, which is a kind of a big thing we've seen. Now, very quickly, look, if I've kind of said that I think Thomas Frank is in a situation similar to Graham Potter, then the same has to be said for Oliver Glasner, who is our other manager. Obviously, he's at Eintracht Frankfurt, has been in charge since 2021. He obviously won the Europa League last season, beating Rangers in the shootout, which again is really impressive. He's also got them 6th in the Bundesliga right now. They finished 11th last season. I feel like we don't know enough yet about Glasner, again, to come into this job what Chelsea can't do right now is go and hire a manager who they are still not 100% sure about his potential, and whether he can handle the kind of like the lights of being the Chelsea Football Club manager. And so that's not necessarily something that I'm saying he won't ever be able to do, but right now, Chelsea can't take that risk again after seeing what's happened with Potter. They need to be careful. They really, really do. And that's why maybe going for like a safer option, rather than more of like an experimental option, is something that I'd probably be looking to do personally. So, but look, Glasner, okay. He's going in okay. Look, I don't think a lot of Chelsea fans, if I'm being honest, if Chelsea went to go and hire Glasner tomorrow, would be really over the moon with it. Moving on to Luis Enrique now, whose club record is very impressive. Obviously, he managed Barcelona for 3 seasons. He won 8 major trophies, including 2 league titles and the Champions League. That has great reading, 100%. Where I'm more worried about, though, is he's not managed a club side now for 6 years. Obviously, he was the Spanish manager, currently doesn't have a job after leaving the Spanish national setup. And look, where I criticise Glasner and where I criticise Frank, I think Enrique obviously has dealt with that. Look, if you've been the Barcelona manager, goodness, you've dealt with the pressure, that's for sure. But I just think the amount of time he spent away from football, again, could be risky. And so for that, he's going in okay. I mean, if there was a tier kind of in between good and okay, I'd probably put him there. I just don't know. We don't know enough about him, of his recent time, of whether he is up to date with what he wants his football to be, what the plan he wants to, or the style he wants to play his football, whether that needs to slightly adapt or change, or whether he feels like he might need extra players or doesn't have the right players, so on and so forth. There'll be possibly a lot of change. Like, that's what we spent about him going to Spurs. He wants his own players there. And so Chelsea have already spent a lot of money. Don't know whether they would be willing to do so much again or cut so many if Luis Enrique wanted that. Next is Maurizio Pochettino. And I'll go straight with it. It's like okay. Like, it might even be good. No, I'll put him in okay. I'll put him in okay because right now, again, Poch has maybe a similar thing to Enrique, where obviously his time at PSG did not go well. Kind of harsh to maybe put that on him because essentially any manager that is at PSG does not go too well, that's for sure. His time at Tottenham Hotspur obviously got them playing incredible football, realistically a shoestring budget, where they didn't go out and spend maybe not the level of Brighton or Brentford's budget, but the level of a top 6 sides budget, where they didn't even buy a player for over a year. Now, again, he hasn't had a job for coming up to a year. July 2022 was when he left PSG. And that slightly worries me that maybe another club hasn't really pushed too far to go and get him. The other bit as well is I just feel like he's going to be the next Spurs boss. If you gave him the option of do you want to be the Chelsea manager or do you want to be the Tottenham manager, I think he'll probably pick Tottenham. Julian Nagelsmann. Julian. Let's get it done. Hire now. Hire him now. Now, I say hire now. He probably won't want to join until the summer. Obviously, Chelsea at the moment, I've given it to Bruno and the assistant manager of Potters for however long, whilst they do this extensive search to find a manager. And I've done the research for you lads. It's Nagelsmann. Heck, Nagelsmann has just been sacked by Bayern Munich. We've seen Thomas Tuchel go over to there. Tommy T. Anyway, Nagelsmann is obviously without a job. He is still technically contracted by Bayern, so if Chelsea were to try and go and get him, they'd have to sort of deal with that first, where they need to, I don't know, have to buy him out, whatever it might be. But when you look at everything that has happened for Nagelsmann this season as Bayern Munich manager, you kind of question maybe why he did get sacked. He's second in the Bundesliga when he got sacked. He was only 1 point behind the league leaders, Borussia Dortmund. In the Champions League, they'd won every single game. They'd only conceded a couple of goals, scored over 20 in that same run. He's had an impressive win rate as well since he was Bayern Munich manager, 71%. Supposedly, he got on with most of the players as well. And when you look at the fact he's only 35, like, you've got someone here who could be your manager for years and years to come. And this is the one thing that I know the Chelsea board really want. They wanted this with Potter. It's the reason they gave him a 5-year contract. They want this manager to who's willing to work with the club and build something for the next 5, 6, however many years it might be. Essentially, kind of what the Pep Guardiola and the Jurgen Klopp have done of recent times. And look, he's the most exciting coach available. He really is. He'll get Chelsea playing attacking football, that's for sure. And that's what I think they want happening. We'll get onto a manager in a bit, but who plays defensive football. I don't think that's what Chelsea will be wanting. The thing that's going to be interesting about whether they can get him is, Nagelsmann said before, he wants a structured club. He wants, to not have to be dealing with lots of kind of mess behind the scenes. And if we're being honest, slightly at the moment, that's kind of what's happened at Chelsea. There's been a little bit of a mess. And so if they can convince him to join the project, I'm sure that'll help with maybe whatever wage they pay him. Then I think he's the guy to go for. It has to be Julian Nagelsmann. Whether that is next week or whether that is the beginning of the new season, I don't mind either way. At least with the new season, he's got time to kind of figure out his players. He's got pre-season games to work things out. But even if you join now, he can use time to figure out his team as well. Next up, Zinedine Zidane. I think anytime a big club has a position available, he is always mentioned. He hasn't been manager for a long time now. Supposedly, he's not in a rush, according to Guillaume Balaguer. It's really only 3 options, supposedly, that Real Madrid, Juventus, or the France national team. Now, everybody here knows I love Zidane. I absolutely adore the man. Especially when you look at his trophy cabinet as well as a manager. 3 Champions Leagues, 2 La Liga titles. However, there are reasons, I think, to be slightly concerned. Doesn't really speak great English, supposedly, as well. And what I think he's amazing at is going into a team that has big names, big personalities, and getting them all on board. Currently, Chelsea is a very young squad that needs to be developed, that needs a tactical approach put into their play as well. I don't think they've really figured out how they want to attack. And that's not to say he can't do that. I actually think his second stint at Real Madrid showed he can be quite tactically versed. But I think like PSG is the club for him. I really do. This like big named club where he can go and go, look, I'm Zinedine Zidane, so on and so forth. So yeah, look, I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't want to do it, but I'd put it in okay. It probably does deserve to be higher, but like, I think if I'm being realistic, he probably shouldn't join Chelsea. Diego Simeone next, the guy who's getting paid the most money in football as a manager. His contract ends in 2024 as well. He's been incredible, if we're being honest, at Atletico Madrid. He's been there since 2011. Won La Liga twice, made 2 Champions League finals, has put on some impressive displays. But I can already see if Chelsea hired Diego Simeone, what would happen. It'd be maximum 2 years. And to be fair, we've not had a manager that's really reached 2 years in a while or gone past it. But realistically, I kind of mentioned earlier, if they're supposedly going for this project thing, I don't think that's Diego Simeone. It would be quite turgid football as well, for being honest. This defensive style football would probably win a lot more games for sure this season. But I don't know whether the young guys of Reece James, and Reece James wouldn't mind it, but your Kai Havertz, your Mudryks, so on and so forth, would be over the moon for it. So I would put it in poor, personally. It's not a signing that I think Chelsea should be doing. I'd be interested to see what his next challenge is after Atletico Madrid. I just don't think it should be Chelsea. Brendan Rodgers next. Obviously, he's just been sacked by Leicester City. Let's be very quick. Don't call him. Don't even call him. I know he's got the links to Chelsea. He was previously a coach there, the reserve boss in 2006, 2008, won the FA Cup with Leicester City, has done a very good job at Leicester. If we are being honest, I think sometimes we always only remember the recent. And if you are looking actually at what Brendan has done over his 200 games in charge of Leicester City, he's been very impressive. Obviously, back-to-back 5th place finishes. Just missed out on the Champions League as well a couple of times. But I just think with the way Chelsea want to go, they need to be looking at somebody who's dealt with the bigger side of things. I mentioned it earlier. That's kind of what also why Nagelsmann, I think, is really good. The fact he's dealt with this Bayern Munich stuff, dealing with a club like Bayern Munich, the pressures that has, and actually what he would have learned probably from leaving Bayern Munich as well now, he'll be able to apply that. I don't know whether Brendan can do that just yet. So yeah, don't call it. Amorim would be... If Glasner's okay, Amorim should probably be okay. Like, if we're being honest, he is probably the next superstar manager who's coming out. I love the fact that his style is just wearing jumpers as well. I think that's quite interesting. He won, obviously, Liga NOS with Sporting. He's really young as well, 38 years old. He does have a release clause that Chelsea would need to pay, but it does come a lot cheaper in the summer. This season as well, things haven't gone as well for them. They're currently 4th in the league. In the Europa League, they're doing okay. They now face, obviously, Juventus. And he really is this exciting coach. But again, I've mentioned it a few times. I just think the next step for Chelsea is somebody who's dealt with this stuff. Nagelsmann's got kind of the best of both worlds. He's this young, exciting, progressive coach who has that experience. It's kind of like a job role. You know, when you're going for a job, right? And they're like, hey, we want you to have experienced 10 years of work. However, you can only have worked now for about 5 years and have been a manager for 4 of those years in that role. Weirdly enough, Nagelsmann kind of like ticks the boxes. Somehow he's done it. And so, yeah, I think if Amorim came in, it would be really interesting. I just think I want to see him at like that next club before you make that move. So yeah, it's okay. I'm not going to be over the moon with it if it does happen. Finally, the special one, Jose Mourinho. Don't call him. Don't call Jose. I know I've seen some of the people say it. Look, Jose is fine where he is. Leave him at Roma. He's had a great time with us. He's done he's won a few leagues with us. Won't complain. Our greatest ever manager, that's for sure. But don't call him. Let him continue in Roma. Let him enjoy himself in Italy. The club right now, with where they are, with the players they've got, this young side, don't need Jose Mourinho dealing with them right now. But his CV's, of course, impressive. I just think football is going beyond Jose now, and I think what he's doing at Roma is interesting. I just don't think he should be doing that at Stamford Bridge right now. There we have it though, guys. That was me ranking the next Chelsea managers, or potential Chelsea managers. Obviously, by the looks of it here, I've got Nagelsmann as the first guy, Thomas Tuchel after that, and after that, probably Luis Enrique, if I'm being honest. Look, throughout this week, we will also be discussing things about Chelsea, more about the potential managers, more about what's happened with Graham Potter and the club right now. So keep your eyes tuned for that. I wanted to get this video out for you quite quickly, obviously, with the news having just broken. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoy your Monday, enjoy your week. We'll catch you very soon. Keep your eyes out if you're not subscribed to the channel. Do that right now. That way you won't miss any Football Daily content. And we'll see you very soon.